You know how it is on TV, right? The detective finds one tiny microscopic clue, they rush it off to some shiny high-tech lab, and bam, an hour later, they've got their guy. It's this world where there are no limits, no budgets, and every single piece of evidence gets its moment in the spotlight. But what if I told you the real world is, well, a whole lot messier, and that the biggest challenge in fighting crime today isn't just the science, it's the cost? Let's get into it. We've all kind of bought into this CSI effect, This idea that forensic science is this magical, all-powerful weapon. But in the real world, every single one of those clues has a price tag attached. And the question investigators have to ask isn't just, hey, can this crack the case? It's, can we actually afford to find out? And look, this isn't just me guessing here. This quote is pulled directly from a guide for UK police forces. It lays out the problem in no uncertain terms. Forensic budgets are shrinking. Even as the science gets more and more amazing, the money to actually do the science is getting tighter and tighter. So at the end of the day, what it all comes down to is this really tricky balancing act between amazing science and cold, hard economics. Every single decision to test a piece of evidence, well, that's also a financial decision. So to handle this new reality, police forces now have a playbook. It's called the Forensic Submissions Good Practice Guide. And you can think of it as a manual for making smart, strategic calls about which clues are actually worth the money. It's all about getting the most investigative bang for your buck. The guide itself calls forensic submissions a service to get best value from the available forensic resources. And honestly, those two words, best value, they change everything. They signal this massive shift in how investigations are being run. And here's what that shift really looks like. Back then, the goal was simple, right? Get a result from the lab, a DNA profile, a match, whatever. But now, the focus is on something way more practical. Does that lab result actually help solve the crime? It's not just about getting an answer anymore. It's about getting an answer that actually matters. So let's take a look at how this works with the most famous forensic tool we've got, DNA. We tend to think of it as this magic bullet, but what this guide makes incredibly clear is that where that DNA comes from is absolutely critical. And the numbers? Well, they don't lie. Just look at this. The chance of getting a good, usable DNA profile from blood, it's super high. From a cigarette butt, still pretty good. But from something that was just handled, whoa, the success rate absolutely plummets. This is the kind of hard data that's now driving decisions right at the crime scene. Let's just focus on that top number for a second. 92%. In the world of forensics, that is about as close to a sure thing as you're ever going to get. That's exactly why blood evidence is such a high priority. It's the best possible return on that scientific and financial investment. And if we zoom out a bit, you can really see this hit list start to form. There's a clear ranking here. An investigator who knows these numbers knows that blood and chewing gum are fantastic bets. But clothing and handled items, that's much more of a long shot. This isn't about hunches anymore. It's about playing the odds. Okay, so what does this actually look like on the street? Let's apply all this strategic thinking to a really common crime. One the police call a volume crime just because it happens so often, a simple home burglary. All right, put yourself in the investigator's shoes. You show up to a burglary, you've got blood on the broken window, you see a screwdriver the guy dropped, there's a cigarette butt on the floor inside, and a piece of chewed gum on the sidewalk right outside. Your budget is tight, you can't test everything, so what do? What's the smart call? Well, the guide lays out a pretty clear game plan. First, you go for the surest thing, the blood. It's got the highest chance of a payoff. Second, you look at things like that cigarette end. But, and this is key, only if it's found inside the scene, because that links it directly to the crime. Third, you're careful with handled items like that tool. Maybe you only test it if this crime is part of a bigger series. And last, you avoid the chewing gum. But why? This chart just makes it all crystal clear. Blood is an automatic, routine submission. The tool is a minimum priority unless there's a really good reason. The cigarette gets a maybe, but its location is everything. But the chewing gum, it's an avoid. Even though it has a high chance of giving up DNA, it was found outside. You can't prove the burglar dropped it. The return on investment is just too low. It's too much money for too little certainty. So, where does all of this leave us? I mean, it might feel like a step backward, right? Testing less stuff, but it's really not. It's an evolution. It's all about making forensic science more targeted, more efficient, and at the end of the day, more effective. The goal isn't just to test more things, it's to test the smarter things. And this, right here, this is really the core of that new forensic mindset. It means focusing on what actually helps solve a case, not just what looks good in a lab report. It's about looking at the entire case, not just one little item. You test things in order, starting with your best shot. And above all, you use data, real data, to make smart, cost-effective decisions. And if you need one sentence that just perfectly sums this all up, this quote from the guide nails it. The goal is to submit the most relevant items. And today, relevance isn't just about science. It's a mix of science, context, and, you guessed it, cost. It's a whole new, pragmatic way of solving crime. Which leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? The world of forensics we see on TV, with its unlimited resources, it's just not real. The real world is about budgets and probabilities and making really tough choices. So, in a system where every single clue has a price tag, how do we make sure that justice doesn't end up with one too?